As long as I was going after the crooks that didn't have badges, I was everybody's hero.
Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you ready to rumble into a new episode, Vic?
We are.
We got cool news articles. We got cool reviews. We got cool everything.
And today, we may finish April 1985. God, let us finish April 1985.
Please let it be done.
That was one of the longest months of my life. I've already said that month lasted at least 6 months.
It's almost like a game now. Who's going to finish first, the quarantine or April 1986?
I know. We're going to finish April 1985.
85, I'm sorry.
We're still in 85. Yeah. Yeah, we still got to go through. Are we in No, that's 85. Yeah. We still got to go get to September 86 is when they slapped the handcuffs on me.
Right.
And then June 87 when I was found not guilty.
Right.
And we've already talked about Jan Patterson and Colonel Jim Adams.
They're out of the picture.
Out of the picture.
Gone.
They were out of there before I was found not guilty.
Jim retired and Jan went on to teaching.
Or something.
Because that's what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
They wanted to do it, Vic. Or this is why you fall down the stairs, Vic. It's one of those.
It was a family decision.
Family decision.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Well, let's start today's episode. You know, we always get some fan mail, but I like this one because this one is from Scotland.
Wow.
So listen to this one. This is a woman by the name of Deborah. Deborah said, "Good afternoon, Mr. Fazell. I have just completed watching The Confession Killer. I felt such a need to email and say what an inspiring human soul you have. What a genuine gentleman I would love to have known in life. Throughout, you acted with honor, truth, love, care towards yourself and your fellow man. Life shows us all how so many obstacles we have to learn and to overcome, lessons from, to make us human beings we are today. I was truly inspired by your fight for justice and honesty. It's wonderful to see the human spirit at its best. Kind regards. Stay safe. Deborah."
Deborah from Scotland. Thank you, Deborah.
That's
I really
sweet.
Appreciate that. And if you sent us that, then you saw our website. If you saw our website, then you know about the podcast. And so listen to the podcast. I hope you're listening.
Yes.
Because we appreciate you, Deborah. Thank you. That was a sweet email.
It was. And from Scotland.
And from Scotland.
Which we do have a lot of listeners in the UK, so hopefully she's one.
We do.
Do you know what just popped up too? I looked at our monthly statistics. People in China are starting to listen. Finally!
Are you
finally getting some
kidding?
listeners from China.
Oh my goodness. In the real China.
The real, well, yeah. What is the real China?
the China on the other side of the Pacific.
Yeah.
Not like China, Texas or anything like that.
Do you know what's funny about driving through Texas? This is a totally side note, but you know, there's a Paris, Texas, a China, Texas. Outside of Dallas, I went through one. It's called Fate, Texas.
Fate.
Ooh, it gives a little, as you drive through Fate.
Yeah.
Can you imagine having an auto wreck there? It's like, it's fate.
It's fate. Yeah, there are little towns all over Texas named after cities everywhere, even ancient cities. You know, Troy, Troy, Texas. There's an Athens, Texas. There's an Italy, Texas.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
After I was arrested, they gave me a pre-trial probation officer. Even though I had not found not guilty.
Pre-trial probation?
Yeah, even though I had never been found guilty. I had just been indicted.
It's warming you up.
I didn't have a passport. I was an elected public official, but I could not leave the county without calling and getting permission from my pretrial officer.
Wow.
And sometimes she was hard to get a hold of.
Uh-oh.
You know? And one of my defense lawyers was Jeff Kearney, and he lived in Fort Worth. And every once in a while, I had to go up to Fort Worth to visit with Jeff. And sometimes Gary would fly in, and we'd all meet in Fort Worth to work on my case. That's where we put together the monster motion.
Okay.
And there's a little town between Hillsboro and Fort Worth called Italy.
Cool.
She says, well, I said, I'm going to leave the county. She goes, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going to Fort Worth, but I'm going to stop off in Italy first.
Oh.
And she goes, what?
Flight risk.
What? And I said, Italy, Texas. I just stopped there and go to the bathroom at the Dairy Queen.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
It was sad.
Yeah, it was rough. Those were some really hard times. And
well, one thing that just reminded me to put this into perspective again, Vic, is, you know, we were just going over some of today's material. And one of the articles says you were 33 years old when this was all going on. I'm 33 now. I can't even potty train a dog. And you were batting off the feds.
Well,
at 33.
When I was 33, Jonathan, I couldn't potty train a dog either.
Well, they got a mind of their own, but but perspective. You had bigger fish to fry than majority of 33-year-olds.
Yeah. I kind of got flung into it. It's like thrown into the fan blades, and I had no choice but to do the things I did. People say, Vic, how did you do it? How did you stand it? Well, they didn't give me a choice. I had to.
I think what's cool perspective-wise, again, though, is that you were young, Vic, and you still had an attitude of, I'm going to make the world a better place, versus someone who's 60 years old, that's a DA, and who's just worn down by life and by cases and who's ready to just fall over for this kind of stuff. I think it played against you in that you were so young and possibly naive to a lot of it, but also played in that you had the energy and you still had in you the goodness, to fight the good fight against this stuff.
Yeah. If I hadn't been so naive, I may not have done any of it.
Yeah.
Because I would have figured it was a battle that could not be won. But by the time I was in the battle, it was too late. I was in the battle.
Yeah, you were in the epicenter of the battle.
Yeah, I had no choice but to win it. I tell you, I used one of their own quotes against him. I said this on 60 Minutes. The Rangers have a saying, you can't stop a good man in the right who keeps on a-coming. Well, they're up against one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just kept on a-coming.
I'm glad they edited that in, because that's how the episode ended. The 60 Minutes episode ended with that quote.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they're up against
played.
one. Because that was before I went to trial, see. That's when all the allegations were still flying. That's when they were coming after me with everything they had. And I'm telling you, during that time in April that the grand jury was on break, they used everything they could on me because they did not want that grand jury coming back. Or if it came back, they wanted that grand jury to call me on the carpet and say, what's going on? Because they were putting out so much disinformation about me. Bob Prince even had his cousin calling around telling people he was with the feds and that I was being investigated.
What?
Way before. Yeah, I have a memo on that. We'll come up with that later. He was a cousin or a real close friend. I've got a memo from Bobby Prince that he wrote to Colonel Jim Adams trying to explain his relationship to this guy.
No way.
He had helped him get a book contract from Henry Lucas. Yeah.
Right.
Brought him in to get a book contract signed by Henry Lucas. Yeah.
Right.
So then when all this starts going, and I'm discrediting Henry. See, Henry was a much more valuable commodity to movie makers and book writers and to the Texas Rangers and to Sister Clemmy and to everybody, all of them, if he was a mass murderer.
Right.
If he was a serial killer and, that Satan worshiping, hand to death, child molesting, dirty killing, I had sex with dead people. I always liked sex with dead people. And all of it was a lie. Every bit of it was a lie. Yeah. But they were buying it hook, line, and sinker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. Yeah, man, I don't want a liar. I want a monster.
Yeah. Well, and once he wasn't worth anything to them, they tried 2 weeks to get him to change his mind and start confessing again, in spite of everything our grand jury had pulled together. And when Henry wouldn't confess again, that's when they drove him up to death row and pushed him out of the car.
The car was still
He's
rolling.
yours now.
Still rolling. They just pushed him out.
You take this piece of poop. We don't want him. He's no use to us anymore. Oh, I got no more use for this guy.
They didn't.
Yeah,
They didn't.
I know.
Well, what happened? Let's go into some of these articles because we have some really cool stuff that we found. We pulled some archive footage. We got a good episode here.
Well, our grand jury was getting ready to come back. I'm looking at an entry in the timeline that Alan McCutcheon did for me back getting ready for the Belo trial.
Right.
And here we come up with Mike Cox again.
Oh, our friend Mike.
Mike Cox, media whore for DPS, media whore for Colonel Jim Adams. We've already talked before about how he somehow left the
Austin American
Statesman. And the way I heard about that, Jim Maddox told me.
Oh, wow.
The first person I heard from that Cox had been fired from the Statesman for being so biased was Jim Maddox.
Wow.
And Jim Maddox knew about it because Jim Maddox was always calling over there complaining about him. Yeah. So, but he didn't miss a paycheck. The very next day, he was on Colonel Jim Adams' payroll.
Wow.
And even leading up to getting on Jim Adams' payroll, he was putting out these articles all the time.
And we did an episode, I guess it was a couple episodes ago, where we covered just one of his many articles that was talking about we talked about the crazy amount of bias and what the disinformation campaign looked like. You know, what an actual article looked like. So I'm happy to read some more Mike Cox today.
They were putting out as many newspaper articles and media events as they possibly could during the time our grand jury was in recess. Mm-hmm. And we were getting things ready to bring other people in. I think when the grand jury came back, Bob and Joyce Lemons were our first witnesses.
Okay.
The Deborah Sue Williamson case. Right. And we're going to be getting into that pretty soon too. But there was something coming out by some retired ranger or Tom Paukin or somebody connected with Colonel Jim Adams all the time. I mean, here's one with a big old picture of Bobby Prince on it. Don't know if you can see that.
Got the Bobby.
Bobby. Prince said, however, that some of the reporting about discrepancies surrounding Lucas' confessions and whereabouts have been totally inaccurate. And that's in quotes, totally inaccurate. Adding that Fizell and reporters have confused dates and this makes me just laugh, and attributed murders committed by Otis Elwood Toole to Lucas.
Oh,
so they're saying, you're getting them confused. No, this was one that Otis did by himself. Folks, Otis Toole didn't kill anybody either. He wasn't a mass murderer.
Including
he might
the
have
Walsh
killed
boy.
Maybe one. Yeah, including the Walsh boy. I don't want to go there.
We don't want to go there.
There's no evidence.
Right.
You know, there's not really, I don't know if there's any evidence he didn't do it, but there's not any evidence that they did. I mean, this freight train had taken off and they were throwing bodies on it as quick as they could, you know? And now here's Prince saying, oh, no, they got him confused with Otis Toole. Well, no. You know, remember when we got to Rita Salazar?
Yeah.
They had Otis Toole in the car when Rita Salazar got killed.
Right.
And there's no way he could have been there.
And the kids.
And the kids, Becky and Frank Powell, in the car when Rita Salazar got killed, and Frank Key when they got killed.
Gosh.
And the school records show that the kids were in school those days.
Yeah, the very next day.
Yeah. And in one of the confessions, Otis said he was the one who shot her. And in the other confession, it was Henry who said he shot her. So which one was it, Bob? Am I getting them confused here? Which one of them? Well, I think we know who killed Rita Salazar because he's in prison now.
That's right.
The DNA came back. The killer was identified. He was approached by law enforcement and approached in the proper way. We have an episode on that. Mm-hmm. And he confessed to it.
He confessed to it.
And they did another DNA swab, and the DNA matched. And the real killer of Rita Salazar is now in prison, Bob Prince, and it wasn't Henry Lucas or Otis Toole. Bob goes on to say, but in my estimation, Lucas has killed many, many people. How many he's killed, I'll never try to guess. Yeah, because it's not very many. It's like...
it's like 1 to 3.
1, 2, 3. 1 to 3. Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Somewhere in there.
Oh, Lord, Vic.
And my grand jury is still on recess.
Okay.
Then on April the 30th, here comes Mike Cox again.
Here comes Mike Cox
again. He'll be coming around the corner when he comes.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Mike Cox coming blindsiding me around the corner. Austin Statesman publishes an article comparing the McLennan County Lucas investigation to a circus.
A circus, Vic.
A circus.
So what would that make you? One of the clowns, or you think the ringmaster?
I don't know.
One of the lions, the bears?
I don't know.
All right.
It wasn't a circus.
If you want to pick a role.
Yeah. It was for real.
It was
for real. It says for the article, author Mike Cox, who would become PR man for the DPS, interviewed Felipe Reyna, Ed Walsh, and Tom Pauken.
Which they're all your friends.
Oh my God. What an unbiased trio.
That's not true at all. Not your friends.
Not an unbiased trio either.
No.
This trio is biased. Only thing that could have made it worse is if they'd have made it a quartet and put Russ Hunt in there.
Yeah.
Did we play that video again? Or
Let's play that one. This is a clip of Russ Hunt after Vic was found not guilty.
But other attorneys and law officers had mixed emotions about the verdict.
But very disappointed
Why?
because it's not what I wanted to happen.
Now, that's just what we've talked about before. Willful ignorance.
Willful ignorance, yes.
Choosing to ignore the facts. Having a preconceived storyline and willfully ignoring any facts to the contrary. And that's what Russ Hunt was doing. That's what Jim Adams was doing. That's what Bob Prince was doing. That's what everybody on the task force was doing. And a lot of the policemen who came down from other jurisdictions, some of them played along.
Right.
Yeah. Like the one lady cop from Dallas, Linda Irwin, who came down and gave the fake case.
Right.
And Henry confessed to the fake case. And then she goes back to Dallas and tells her bosses about what happened. And they go, well, we just won't accept any more Lucas confessions. But boy, they kept quiet.
Yes.
They kept quiet. It was poor old Vic that was the voice crying.
Poor old 33-year-old Vic. Little 5-pound, 3-ounce Vic.
I was a voice crying in the wilderness. Yeah, Tom Pauken. He interviews Tom Pauken. Now, for our listeners, go back and listen to some of the history here. Tom Pauken had been a high muckety-muck in the Republican Party. He was one of their errand runners who would go out and fix stuff for him. He had some kind of big title, but he was mainly a fixer. Mm-hmm. And he didn't like me at all. And
now he owned the radio station,
he owned
right?
the radio station, KRZI. Lynn Woolley talks about that some because he's the one who
helped him get it.
Got him to come to Waco before he knew what a jerk he was.
Which Lynn Woolley apologized to you for that.
He did. And Pauken was friends with Colonel Jim Adams.
Right.
And Pauken hated Jim Maddox because he had run against him twice for Congress when Jim was a congressman, and Jim beat him both times.
Yep, that would do it.
Yeah, that'd do it. So I wouldn't say he was unbiased. Felipe Reyna, that's the guy I beat for DA.
You beat him for DA.
Yeah. The only things they said true in the Belo stuff would have been true if they'd have said Felipe Reyna instead of Vic Fizell. A couple of the cases they talked about happened while Felipe was DA.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
And we figured that out. And Gary Richardson asked Charles Duncan on the witness stand in the Belo case, you can see the date here. You know that Vic Fizell wasn't even the DA yet.
Oh,
what are you saying that he
sloppy?
didn't? Yeah. Why are you saying he didn't prosecute this assault on a police officer when it wasn't him? It was Felipe Reyna. And I remember Duncan goes, poetic license?
Vic, man. You're
going to show the title of this article, right? Lucas Circus assailed.
Yes.
See, Bob Hope had been in town the day before.
Really? Bob Hope?
The Bob Hope.
What was Bob Hope doing in Waco?
They had set up a circus tent not far from the courthouse for a fundraiser. Okay. 2 circus tents were set up across from the McLennan County Courthouse for a banquet featuring comedian Bob Hope in celebration of the soft drink developed in Waco a century ago, Dr. Pepper.
Nice.
It was a fundraiser for a bunch of charities in town.
Cool. Bob Hope, all right.
Bob Hope. So about the only thing Bob Hope did not make cracks about was to the 2,000 people in attendance for the prosperity banquet was the other celebrity of sorts lodged in the jail across the street, Henry Lee Lucas. The attraction behind bars was Henry Lee Lucas, who has confessed to more than 200 killings and then recanted all but one of those confessions.
Mama. Oh, boy.
Lucas, under a death sentence for slaying a Williamson, for a slaying in Williamson County, has been in Waco since April 12th. Well, we know what death sentence that was. That was the Orange Sox.
That was
case.
Orange Sox.
That was
The
Orange
only
Sox.
the only death penalty case he had.
The only one. And also the only one that George W. Bush ever commuted.
Yes.
George Bush knew that Henry hadn't killed these people, and George Bush didn't want to go down in history as a governor who executed an innocent man.
Thank
Now,
you, W.
we probably have executed some innocent people.
Oh, there's no doubt.
No doubt. But Henry was. He was innocent of the Orange Sox murder. And now we even know because of DNA who Orange Sox was. And we have a whole podcast on that. So go back and listen to it. We're getting a bunch of podcasts out there, man. We
have a lot.
Close to 80 now.
We're getting near 80.
Yeah, getting near 80.
We've been going, Vic, for nearly a year.
Nearly a year.
We still have so much to go.
I know.
So much to talk about.
We started in July, I think.
I think you're
July
correct.
or August, because we wanted to be up and running in time for the Confession Killer when it came out, and they kept moving the date on us. Oh, it's going to be September.
know it.
Oh, it's going to be November. Oh, it's going to be December. You know, and finally it came out. But we also wanted to be on the air for the anniversary of my arrest,
Right.
September 17th, 1986. And this September, we're going to do a podcast, and you kind of tease me about all my old T-shirts, my vintage T-shirts.
Yeah.
I still have the suit and the tie that
Really?
I wore the day I was arrested.
I bet that's baggy as hell now.
I bet it is, but I'm going to wear it.
You gonna wear it?
I'm going to wear that thin red tie, my 1980s red tie, and I'm going to put on that suit because it was a nice suit. I had bought that
nice
suit from Harlick's Menswear.
Back when they had like menswear's house, or not, I said men's warehouse, menswear's stores.
It was in the little Lake Air Mall here, right down from the Piccadilly cafeteria. None of that exists anymore. It's all Target now. It's all just one big Target. That used to be a mall, and Harlick's men's store was in there. Mr. Harlick ran it, and his two sons helped him, Larry Harlick and Harry Harlick. Now, Larry has since died.
Oh.
But Harry is still in town. And man, Harry has gone on to really make something out of himself. He's a solid citizen. He's on the board of the Waco Symphony. He's been president of the Waco Symphony.
That's cool.
Yeah, and he and his wife are both just great people. And me and my wife love seeing him. We used to, back when we used to go out in public, you know. So anyway, hi, Harry Harlick, the only one of the Harlicks I knew that's still living. But the FBI did not know that suit was from Harlick's because they had been talking about arresting me so long, and they had been subpoenaing everyone I knew to the grand jury.
Right.
Even the lady that owned the Chinese restaurant where I used to go eat.
Really?
They subpoenaed Mrs. Chin.
Oh.
They thought, well, he eats there twice a week. He's bound to. We heard a rumor he owns part of this place, and she goes, "What? No, me and my husband own this place." Yeah,
That's crazy.
So
What did the suit cost back in the 80s?
oh, I don't know. Today that suit would be $1,000. Back then, I bet it was less than 200, 180.
Because that is a nice suit.
It's a real nice suit. But I took a little razor blade and I cut all the labels out of it.
Really?
Yeah, because the Harlicks would sew
Just so
their
they
own
wouldn't
little
harass
label.
them.
Yeah, because just in case, I didn't want them going harassing the Harlicks because everybody else I knew was getting harassed. Even an insurance guy I would play golf with sometimes. Cole Word. He later became county judge over Meridian for a while. And Cole Word was harassed by him and sent to the grand jury. They wanted to know if he and I owned property together. Somewhere I've got video of Cole Word coming out of the federal grand jury. And they're wanting to know, what'd they ask you? Oh, it was crazy. I don't know why I'm down here. They just want to know if Vic and I owned any property together. And I said, I wish.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. So God bless the Harlicks, and I'm going to wear that suit in September. I may have to put on a belt and cinch it up.
I think you will.
But my shoulders are about the same size. Just that my waist is a lot smaller.
So Bob Hope. So what's Bob Hope up
yeah,
to?
Bob Hope. It says that April 12th, as part of the county grand jury investigation into his confessions to the slayings in McLennan County, The theatrics unfolding in the white-domed courthouse have gained national attention and easily rivaled Bob Hope for top billing last week. The day before Hope arrived in Waco, Lucas was interviewed on the network television show Good Morning America. I think we played some of that.
Yeah.
Felipe Reyna, my former opponent, who once I beat him, got mad, called a press conference in the rain, and said, if people in this county are dumb enough to elect that man DA, I'm resigning from the Democratic Party. And he
Really?
did. Yeah, and he became a Republican.
What a trip.
Yeah, what a trip. Felipe Reyna, the former prosecutor for McLennan County, did not mind saying what he thought about the grand jury investigation directed by Vic Feazell, the man who defeated him in the 1982 Democratic primary.
No hard feelings.
Here's Felipe. It's a three-ring circus, a farce, and an insult to the whole criminal justice system, Reyna said. It's a waste of taxpayers' money, and it's political showboating.
Were you showboating, Vic?
Yeah, I was showboating.
Were you rodeoing around out there?
Yeah, I was up there tap dancing and wearing my cowboy outfit and yodeling and
Some chaps? You have some chaps on?
yeah, singing four-part harmony and yeah.
What I like about people like Felipe is how he says it's the whole criminal justice system. You know, you're peeing on the whole justice system. It's not just anything isolated. That's what these guys always did, you know, and they always made it to become inclusive of everything.
Do you still have that quote you were reading earlier from Bob Prince? Tell us what
Bobby?
Prince said.
Let me find old Bobby's quote here. So this was from an April 22nd, 85 article. So Bob Prince said about your investigation, he said, it's an attack. I'm sorry, it's not only an attack on me, it's an attack on the entire judicial system, an attack on the entire Ranger service, an attack on the entire law enforcement community across the United States, and an attack on prosecutors and grand juries. You know, so yeah, you're right. Again, I'm happy you remembered that.
So my grand jury was an attack on grand juries.
Yeah.
And they forget that I was law enforcement. Remember last episode, I wore my badge.
Right?
I was law enforcement. How can they say I was against law enforcement? I was law enforcement. He was mad because I didn't call them first and tell them what we were looking at. That's like calling the fox after your hens have been killed. You know?
Yeah. God, Vic.
Gee, Mr. Fox, not accusing anybody, but no, we were investigating them. And yeah, it's easy to like spread it out there. Oh, if you're after me, well, like one of the old ex-Rangers said in a letter to the editor, if he's attacking the Rangers, then he's attacking America, motherhood, and apple pie.
Crazy.
I know.
But, you know, if I was a common citizen, you know, would I not feel triggered by that to some degree?
Oh, of course.
Well, I mean, why is he attacking the judicial system as a whole? I thought it worked all right.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, that's exactly what they were doing. That was their strategy. That was their plan. They had experts working on this. Colonel Jim Adams was an expert at this. Colonel Jim Adams was part of the deep state people. And if you don't believe me, do some research. And don't just read Jan Patterson's obituary of him. Go back and listen to some of the Senate hearings where they were dragging him in over the carpet over some of the things that the domestic spy program had done.
All right, Mr. Showboat, let's get back to it.
All right, showboat.
Showboating.
So Mike Cox continues, even those with no real political axe to grind with Feazell are critical of the political undertones of the grand jury. Those with no political axe to grind. Let's see who he picked.
Let's see who these people are.
Who are they? Whoa, Butch Albers.
Who's he?
He is a 13-year veteran of the Texas Rangers. He says, I feel like it's a miscarriage of justice, said retired Ranger E.G. Butch Albers Jr., who is a Ranger more than 13 years and spent a quarter of a century with the Department of Public Safety.
So he doesn't have an axe to grind, Vic, even though you're making fun of his association. Or calling out his association for corruption. Yeah. That was the wrong word. You're exposing them for corruption.
Yeah. Yeah, we were investigating them for corruption, for the way they pulled this massive hoax on the people of the United States and on all the other law enforcement. If anybody was insulting law enforcement, it was this task force. By getting them to clear cases that were BS, by getting them to send in their photos and their lab reports and their police reports, and letting Henry just sit there and
thumb through them.
Thumb
You
through
see
'em.
him flipping through.
When I was a kid, we had a phrase called coon fingering, because the raccoons would get in your garbage and knock the lid off, and they'd go through it with their little fingers.
They have incredible dexterity.
Yeah, they really do. And so, yeah.
Oh, I like this quote. They are using this as a political football, and I feel the citizens of his county and state don't like it.
Yeah.
I sure don't like it. Ooh, I sure don't like.
I don't live here, but I feel that the citizens of McLennan County don't like this.
So you've been
because I don't like it.
So you've been called a showboat now, and now you're a quarterback with a football.
Yeah. And it keeps reminding me of that Bloodhound Gang song. And I don't give a damn if you don't like me, because I don't like you if you're not like me. And I don't give a damn if you don't like me, because I don't like you if you're not like me. I hope we don't have to pay for that, because I didn't say it very long.
No, it's your own sound recording.
So,
Your version.
but that's what they were doing. If you don't like, I don't give a damn if you don't like me, because I don't like you, because you violated the law enforcement brotherhood.
But remember, though, Vic, this is an unbiased party.
Yeah. No axe to grind. How'd he say it? Even those with no real political axe to grind. Well, let's see who comes next. Tom Pauken is none.
Oh,
is
Tom
the
Pauken's
next.
another one.
Tom Pauken. Another critic is Tom Pauken.
Wait, he says there's no ask around, and he instantly calls him a critic. I love it. Okay. I'm sorry.
Tom Pauken, general manager of Waco radio station KRZI. Crazy radio. And Pauken was crazy. He was batshit crazy. And not in a good, funny way. He was mean.
Yeah.
He was just a mean man. KRZI, which aired an editorial critical of Fizell and the grand jury investigation. He aired a bunch of editorials against me. And he was carrying the water for Colonel Jim Adams. He's the one who set up the meeting with at the Ramada Inn with Ron Border, the intelligence officer for Colonel Jim Adams, and Charles Duncan.
Oh.
Charles Duncan, investigative reporter, Channel 8, Below. Which then he got fired. Their law firm got fired. And I got in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Hey.
Pauken was twice defeated by Maddox in a bitterly fought congressional races in the Dallas area.
So there you go.
But he has no axe to
He's got
grind.
no axe to grind.
He's got no axe to grind. He goes on, I think they, Fizell and Maddox, let the genie out of the bottle and can't put it back in, Pauken said. Well, we didn't want to put the genie back in the bottle. We felt like the genie should be out of the bottle and everybody should get to look at it.
Genie needs to be out.
Yeah. And I knew I had this tsunami coming at me. The tsunami of PR. This tsunami of political speak, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I knew it was going to be rough. And that's why I kept trying to remind everybody the truth does not always win in leaps and bounds. Sometimes it has to slowly saturate like a sponge taking up water. And that's what has finally happened here. Because if on the short race, these guys were winning, man.
Yeah.
They were winning. They were beating us in the face with clubs, figuratively speaking, with all these kind of articles coming out every day, day after day after day. And then all the TV stations reading them and wanting their quotes.
Of course.
And pack journalism, where they won't go out and do the work themselves, but repeat what somebody else has said.
Right.
That's what I like about our
Syndicated
podcast.
out.
We are a primary source podcast. We talk about things we've done. We talk about people we know. We don't just read about somebody else's case and come in here and talk about it.
That's right.
That's what sets us apart. And I'm not saying anything bad about those other podcasts. There are several of them that I listen to and I like.
Yeah.
I like My Favorite Murder. I like Dialogue.
Yeah.
Remember she had me on.
Yeah.
That's a real good one. And I just read that she's going to start doing video.
Cool.
She doesn't do video now, but she's been videotaping some of her stuff. And she's going to start putting some clips on YouTube.
Excellent.
So look up Dialogue, DIE/a log.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Witty.
Witty. I think they, Fazell and Maddox, have let the genie out of the bottle. We sure did, and I'm glad we did. The grand jury investigation was a neat little deal for some PR, but it's gotten out of control. They have gone overboard in attacking the Rangers and law enforcement without any credible evidence to back it up.
Well, that's a damn lie.
That's a damn lie. We were not attacking law enforcement. We were trying to clean up law enforcement.
Oh, man. But remember, he's unbiased.
He's unbiased. Yeah. And then they talked to Ed Walsh, and Ed Walsh is wanting to run for...
Walsh!
He wants to run for Attorney General against Maddox.
And Ed Walsh was the district attorney in Williamson County. So he was one who oversaw Orange Sox.
He prosecuted Orange Sox, along with his assistant DA, Ken Anderson,
Right.
who later prosecuted
Michael Morton.
Michael Morton. Yeah, poor old Michael Morton.
I'd love to have him on the show.
I would too.
We have so many guests we can line up, but we need this.
Well, I've talked to Michael, and he's just as tired of this kind of stuff.
Just wants a distance.
Yeah,
I don't blame him.
He says, I just enjoy fishing now. So I don't blame him. I mean, he's been through so much. But Ken Anderson, Walsh's assistant during all this, who was always standing right beside him while Walsh was bad-mouthing me and Maddox. And we have some video of that we can show. It may have may show Anderson in it. But he ended up getting disbarred.
Ooh.
All these people who are after me, man, karma has done its work on this.
Yeah, I would say.
I mean, they're either dead or disbarred or had some kind of terrible thing happen, you know? Fazell, the 33-year-old son of a Baptist preacher, denies any political motivation behind the investigation. Because there wasn't. We were really trying to do what was right. I'm only interested in one thing, and that's the truth, he said.
You should say, I said.
Ed Walsh sees it differently. Walsh, who prosecuted the 79 murder of an unidentified woman found off of Interstate 35 in his county, has been returned to office without opposition. Well, good for him. He didn't get an opponent. I got an opponent in every race. And they were backed by the same people.
Yeah.
Both the Democrat that ran against me and the Republican who ran against me, backed by the same people. We called them Frick and Frack. Yeah. Frick and Frack, because they were twins. They were just alike. I mean, the same people backing them. They didn't look alike. Don't get me wrong there. But they had the same attitude, and that is, we'll roll over for law enforcement.
Yeah.
We'll kiss your butt. We'll let you get away with anything. We'll never stand up to you. And that's why Pauken was mad at me. That's why Jim Adams was mad at me. That's why Jim Patterson was mad at me. That's why Sheriff Boutwell was mad at me. And then they keep trying to say that none of them were connected. They all got connected at the big brass meeting.
Yes.
The night that we took Henry away from the task force.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ed Walsh actually held a press conference, and we'll play part of the clip there where he basically just badmouths you and Maddox, what you're doing, saying you guys, again, you're interfering, you're against law enforcement.
I'm here today to respond to what I feel is irresponsible actions, unprofessional actions on the part of not only Jim Maddox, but also District Attorney Vic Fazell.
Well, I keep going back to the linchpin of the whole thing, and that's me walking up the steps in handcuffs. And I got my finger pointing at the cameras, and I'm going, you know what's going on here, and I'll still be proven right. And all of this distraction here, all of this propaganda.
Yes.
And yet we were still proven right.
I like this one. It says, if Vic is a political football, I didn't start kicking him around. Jim Maddox said. Or no, I'm sorry. Jim Maddox and Vic Fazell did. That's what it says.
Yeah.
But this again, Vic, and I'm happy you found this article, because this is just another example of what was happening. And this was intended to bias the grand jury for when they came back to session. They would call you to the floor, like you said at the beginning of this episode, that you're the one that they wanted next to say, dude, what's going on with all this? Maybe we should break on this thing.
Yeah. And they kind of had that attitude when I first got back.
So how did you tame them back down? And that is a picture, Vic, of Bob and Joyce Lemons
Bob
and you.
and Joyce and me. This was a picture was taken after I was found not guilty. They drove all the way down here to attend an appreciation dinner fundraiser for me. And I'd already been found not guilty. But, man, Bob was quite a guy. He spent his life savings before I ever even got involved, going around interviewing everybody that knew Henry Lucas to prove that Henry had not killed their daughter. Mm-hmm. And so I come back, I give a little 20-minute, this is BS speech to my grand jury.
God.
And then I bring in Bob Lemons. And by the time Bob and Joyce were through testifying, the grand jury felt that, hey, there is some evidence here.
All right.
This stinks. We're hearing from real live victims now, people that the task force has taken advantage of by putting another plaque on their wall about a solved case, but it wasn't the real killer.
Vic, who was the first few people that were called to the grand jury? Was like Hugh the first one?
Hugh was the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. And they liked Hugh. Right. They did. Hugh's a very likable guy, and he had so much information. But he was a journalist.
Right.
And by then, Hugh had already been thrown into or would soon be thrown in. No, he was already thrown into the mix. No, because his article had come out. Yeah, right after he testified, then his article came out.
Right.
And so they were attacking Hugh as well. And his home was burglarized, too.
Yeah, they took all the Lucas tapes.
Yeah, all they could find. Fortunately, there were a bunch they couldn't find. Yeah, Walsh says that Feazell and Maddox are jeopardizing cases against Lucas by implying wrongdoing on the part of the Texas law enforcement agencies. Well, ask Nympha Salazar how she feels about this now, Ed Walsh. Nympha is Rita Salazar's sister.
Yes.
And as soon as we can, and by the way, you know we're getting this glass thing replaced.
We're getting a bigger
We're getting a bigger
shield.
one that goes up higher, and it's thicker so we can polish it, and so I can see you instead of seeing my own reflection. But Ed Walsh, eat these words or pick up the phone and call Nympha Salazar and say, what do you think about it all, Nympha?
Yeah. Maybe even say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I doubt it.
Nah.
That's okay.
Nah.
I don't need an apology. I don't need that. I don't. I've already forgiven all these people. I don't have an axe to grind. But the truth needs to be out there, because when the truth is out there, it helps make stuff like this not happen again.
Correct.
You know, you sweep it under the rug, it's going to happen again. You know, the truth is kept secret. It's swept under the rug. If you never know truth, then you never know love. Where's the love, y'all?
What are you doing?
I'm quoting Black Eyed Peas now.
You know, for an old guy, you know a lot of music. Bloodhound Gang, Black Eyed Peas.
Yeah, I know a lot of Hank Williams too, and George Jones, and a lot of them. Yeah.
You know music.
So anyway, ask Nympha about that. April 30th, Boutwell visits Lucas in McLennan County Jail and tape records his half-hour afternoon meeting. Boutwell says he was only allowed to visit Lucas for a short time before being asked to leave. It was Jack Harwell that asked him to leave. Mm-hmm. And Boutwell says he also tape recorded his meeting with Lucas's attorney, Guy Cox.
Right.
And then Guy said, I want that tape. And Boutwell says, no.
Hey, nope.
And then Boutwell gives it to Ed Walsh, who gives it to Jan Patterson, who then gets Henry subpoenaed to the grand jury in San Antonio,
right,
where they were planning to indict me and Jim Maddox for violating Henry Lucas's civil rights. And so that was April 1985.
Vic, are we done? Can we call it?
We can call it.
April is over.
April is over. And when we come back on May...
But it's really only just begun.
It's only just begun. Because when we come back on May, then that's when Bob Prince starts writing his Cover My Big Butt memos to DPS that I later got copies of during the BELO thing.
Oh, wow.
And so I started being able to make connections there between him and the memo I've got here about his cousin friend and one of his other buddies, an investigator who had worked for me, who I had to fire because I just wasn't going to keep anybody with me who did anything dishonest. And so I had to let him go. So then they were calling around and saying I was under investigation. Memo to file, June 12th, 1985. So that was June. So then in May, we come back and the grand jury comes back and we have Bob and Joyce Lemons.
I love it.
Love it. Hi, I'm Vic Fazell. During these trying times, you might want to just stay home. And at the law offices of Vic Fazell, we understand. That's why we're set up to handle your personal injury claim without you even having to come in. Just give us a call, and we'll take it from there. We can send any paperwork straight to your smartphone or computer. Don't delay, because if we don't put money in your pocket, you don't owe us anything. I'm Vic Fazell.